Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. And that time is today, changing the conversation from money to vision with my beautiful co-host, Joan Sharp. Welcome to the show, Joan.
Kornelia, hi, it's great to see you.
It's wonderful to see you. Thank you, everybody, for listening and for tuning in. Today, we want to talk about how many times do you think money will get you where you want to go? And fall is right around the corner. Fall is when many events happen and when we get into more an intense mindset than we had in the summer when we were on vacations and more relaxed. And this is also when money, work, and family tensions will present themselves and will show. So, what does it look like when changing the conversation from money to planning for fall and holiday events? My beautiful co host, Joan Sharp of River Family Advisors, is not just an advisor, she's a thought leader in the area of changing your money mindset. Joan encourages us to change the difficult conversations that we have that are all about money to a pleasant conversation about a shared vision, and you will better support your values, your life experiences, your legacy, and your wealth. This is what we're going to talk about today. Thank you, Joan, for educating us and for bringing this conversation back to us. Thank you.
Kornelia, glad to be here. And happy August. Here we are already at the end of the summer. How many times do you find that people are holding their breath, loving August, still relaxed, but gearing up because they're going to change how they've been showing up in work and in maybe getting kids to school? And some people are a little tense now while they're figuring out how their kids are starting college at the end of the month, or virtual or in person. But I've always found people, like in our town, a lot of people are usually off in August and everything's way more relaxed. And then September hits and it's almost as if summer hadn't been here and people become more tense. Conferences, business meetings, and all of that. This year it's going to be different, but it is the same, right? Do you see this with people?
Yes, I do. I mean, just the normal, going back to, like you said, with everything, summer's over, we're looking at our goals and thinking about our goals and what we've accomplished and what, we have a few months left in the year. So there's that happening. But I feel like this year there's an entirely different new spin on everything because we're having to learn how to do things again with everything that 2020 has brought us. And so we have this whole new intense level added on, with so much uncertainty. And that's why it's really important, Joan, that we're talking about this now so that we can plan and be more prepared.
Yeah, we have holidays and events are coming up when people usually travel to meet with family, be with family, family travels to them. You have kids preparing for Halloween, and Halloween costumes is actually probably one of the first ones. And as you know, football season for most colleges isn't going to happen. That's always been a big social activity for a lot of people, and professional football is going to look a little different. So places where we socialize and how we socialize with this is going to be different. And what is that going to look like? Because actually you can go to some restaurants maybe and watch games, but how are we going to plan for the holidays? People kept moving vacations. I know I talked to people that are like, okay, well now we'll do our spring vacation in the fall. And now that's not really probably going to happen for a lot of people because the comforts and the safety. And what are the holidays going to look like? Now, summer's optional on when we get together with families. July 4th, it's neighbors. It's, once again, like the summer, it is a lot more relaxed and people have more and open conversations. With the holidays, in some places, there's tension around Thanksgiving. People hit a couple family homes, and definitely around Christmas. People are jumping between different parents or aunt uncles' homes. For the holidays, and you make these big meals are a big part of our tradition. I mean, Thanksgiving, that is not an outside American celebration that we have like July 4th where you could be outside. It's cold in a lot of places, or a lot of us go to warmer places, and it's more a big inside. So what is this going to look like? And I am sure there's a lot of people out there, and it's kind of on the edge of the mind. If you have children, you're kind of more focused on school right now. But I will tell you, Cornelia, I'm one of these people who likes to plant something. You don't have to give an answer right now, but actually it helps if it's in the back of your mind as you're working through this other stuff on what is important about Thanksgiving, what is important about Halloween, and how are you going to do that now if you're not taking kids out to neighborhood houses because you don't feel comfortable, people don't feel comfortable knocking on the door. So what is it about Halloween that may be important to you and your family? And I'm going to say you may not even have to have kids. I know a lot of adults who like Halloween parties and dressing up for work. And then what is important about Thanksgiving? What is the core of the part that you enjoy about Thanksgiving? And I say enjoy because I know it's a lot of pressure and people are worn out and it's crazy and there's a lot of cooking, but some people really enjoy the cooking. So what is it? And what is it about Thanksgiving that you really enjoy and is important? And from what I'm hearing, if you have children, your kids are actually coming home at Thanksgiving if they're at school, and they will be there through the holidays. So, what does this look like and what does it mean? I know some people are thinking of going to vacation homes and staying there longer than they normally would for Thanksgiving because of the kids not having to get back to school, but being able to work virtually. So, what do you find, Cornelia, about this time of year and all that planning that you do with that?
Yeah, well, I'm still, I haven't even gone there, honestly. That's why it's like now we're going there. You're doing
Yeah.
that seed planting, and now I'm going there. Mainly, what I've been talking about with entrepreneurs, with a lot of the entrepreneurs that I get to work with, is the back to school thing. That seems to be a really big piece that's front and center right now, is the back to school piece. And the majority of the entrepreneurs that I'm talking to are choosing to not send their kids back to school. They're choosing to um, you know homeschool. And then there's others too, that are saying, okay, it's back to school time. So there's that going on in discussion. And then another big thing that's on the minds of a lot of people, I think, is just the political landscape that is also playing out, and the voting. But there seems to be so many issues out there right now, so many different things that it almost feels like people are still not wanting to, have go into it yet. You know what I
Right.
mean? It kind of feels like people are still wanting to, enjoy the rest of the summer, the summer. But it's good to start giving this some thought and thinking about it. So I'm glad you're bringing it up.
Yeah, because you're not going to have the answer. And actually, I find when I put it in my head and I'm like, gosh, I don't know. And I will tell you, my family has been talking about Thanksgiving because we usually go away, my siblings, their kids, we all, and my parents, and we meet at a location. And my parents have already said they're not doing it. And this was a hard decision, I know, for them because they don't feel safe flying. They don't feel driving, they can do the drive. So they've just decided for their safety, they have to stay home. And I weigh it back and forth on what I'm going to do. So that's, and I had been leaning to not traveling either. and staying in. So what is important to me to do? What I did years ago when I didn't travel and I was younger was I invited everyone who didn't have a place to come to, and did a fun Thanksgiving dinner with friends and being thankful for friends at that time. Well, we know that's probably, unless you have a great backyard that can be safe and you can do that, maybe not what you're going to do. So it is what's important. And I know other people who literally run between different family houses at Thanksgiving within their community. And as we have maybe spent some time seeing some family for the first time when things opened up, this is something that you may think of for those that are driving kids to school or running errands. These kind of things pop up, and you know what will pop up with it. Oh, I can't afford that.
That's it.
May be too expensive. I'm not even going to think about it. So my thing is let that go and be with, okay, let me just, let's just assume I have the resources. Let's not think about the money. What is important? Think of what were the happy times. And if you have kids, Halloween's coming up first. And Kornelia, I have to say, it's interesting when you talk about school, because I've talked to some different people, and one has children where one wants to go back to school and the other does not. And so one is going to go to classroom and the other is going to do it virtual. Mm-hmm. And it's because the one who does not want to go would be very uncomfortable and nervous that actually wouldn't be learning in school. Now, there's going to be some children who it may be better that they go to school and it's just getting them there. But this particular child would be very nervous and uncomfortable. So then what does that look like when the sibling comes home from school to make sure they're safe when they enter the house? And and I was talking to clients yesterday, and they're like, their kids are going to school and they're just preparing. They have not left their house really. They have been very good. And they're just preparing for possibly it coming home with the children now from school. And what does that look like? So there is that stress right now and getting that. And I have nieces that are starting college, freshman year of college. And it seems as if the small colleges are going ahead with moving with in-person and the larger colleges are not. So I have one going to a small college and one going to a large college. And the one that's going to the large college, virtual, doesn't want to be home and has chosen to and wants to experience kind of a freshman year and has chosen to find a place to live in the city where the college is and to do virtual. Now, not every student can do that for various reasons. This child happens to be really good at independent study and will get work done, right? But that can add a whole nother layer of everything and what makes sense and how this is going to work. So yes, you're right. A lot of people are dealing with this, but this is also kind of the practice of, well, what's important to us? What do we value? And how do we move forward with this? And Halloween that will be a good starting point because that has traditions with a lot of families. Some people it does and some people it doesn't. And then Thanksgiving. So take trials with all the different things that are going on and what you're finding yourself that's important. And yes, then look at the budget of what is this going to cost. And what's interesting is I heard a statistic this week of Americans have been saving more because of this.
Yeah.
Some things have cost more, right?
Yeah.
Savings has gone up. So, yes, some things may cost more, but some parts of it won't. So definitely, once you find what's important, don't be afraid to look at the money and your resources and what that would look like. Look at it and think about it. And then maybe if it is out of the budget, how do you create? Because you're starting from the point of the vision or the value of what was important. Okay, what are other ways to do this? And I'm going to throw out something.
Yeah.
How many times have you hired someone, be it for work, yourself, okay, and just to make you feel better or get something done that you want to get done, and you figure if you pay for it, it will be done. And I really do mean an activity. And I'll use something like business. You hire a coach, right? Or you hire a marketing person. And you'll know, as being a coach, sometimes people expect that you're going to be able to accomplish for them, right, what they want to get done, but they have to walk through those doors, right? Have you
Yeah.
found that?
Yeah, I was trying to make the distinction, like when was the last time that I hired somebody like that? Like when was the last time that you hired somebody like that? When
Oh, like I will say last year.
Okay.
And in my business, and expecting them to be able to do something that I know you have to have someone, right, to help tools. And so I'm going to say with families, yes, you have to have someone clean your house, right? But they're probably not going to clean it as well as you want it clean. And how angry do you get when you find that spot and you want to fire them? Why don't you pick up and say, all right, this is what they do, but I need to make time for this. So I've had it where there's certain things that I know I'm not good at, and there's another step to it, right? Maybe it is being on social media all the time, which, as you're well aware, I am, most people know me more as a stalker than actually very active, right? And so I expect someone else to do it. Well, they can't do it for me, right? They can help me design logos, they can help work. And so how many times in our life do we do that and think it's going to be done the way we want it, or get us the what we wanted to see happen? How many times? So I'm going to say, do you ever find someone frustrated sometimes with you, and it's because it's an extra step that they may need to do? I mean, it's just.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because it's again what your expectations are of the way that you do things.
Right.
Other people may not do things that way, and so that something is not going to get done, right, unless you are really a good communicator, communicating exactly what your expectations are.
Right.
And I think that's again would be a good thing to talk about the vision again.
Exactly.
Is talking about the vision and being able to communicate the vision rather than um yeah, that like I envision this. It's like now the distinction I'm making is I just did a pre-record recently with 4 people, and we were coming on to talk about to be an anti-racist. And so basically before the show we sat together and I asked each person what their vision was for the conversation, so
Wow.
that we can really have a very open dialogue about what the conversation was. What's the vision? What's your vision? What's your vision? Everyone's coming from their point of view.
Right. So this is the whole thing with families and holidays and Halloween and work and everything. This is when all this comes together, and the pressure. And so knowing what is important, and you're not going to come up with it right away. This is why I'm planting the seed now on what is important. What are you seeing? What is your vision? And actually may not have a vision. It's what is the feeling that you enjoy so much. And what will be really important with your family is to sit down and have a conversation with everyone. What is the feeling? Because when things aren't going right, what is the first thing we say? I spent so much money and time on this. But that isn't really, yes, I'm sure you spent a lot of money and time, but did you share what you were trying to create? And was that what everybody else felt was important in creating? And I find when you have these conversations, it's kind of amazing. Sometimes where you end up spending the most money and time isn't the most important part or feeling for everyone in the family. And it's just like, and I'm going to tell you, I kind of came to this too. I mean, this is what is going into the fall. I am thinking about what is and working on and looking at old ways and ways I've done Thanksgiving. And I have to tell you, I've also been in thinking of transitioning the way I've done Thanksgiving because I'm at a different point in my life. So one thing about COVID that is now, if you are on the edge of changing the way you did a holiday, you are getting a chance to really dig into what is the part of the holiday you really enjoy and give something else a try and kind of break from the old to the new and move forward with this. And there's a lot of things going on, and safety is one of them. And that can create an interior stress that we don't know that's going on. I am in the process, and I say that because I'm in the process of a remodel. I'm normally not an anxious person at all, okay? And I was an anxious wreck for a week. And I'm like, what is going on here? I have a design person. Once again, this is where hiring someone to do the design and everything. And we did have to take a step back, and I had viewed a bunch of stuff, but she is not going to know how I'm going to feel comfortable in my house. And I set a lot of expectations around that. So I'm nervous on how things were coming together, but I'm sitting here like, why am I a wreck? I am a planner. I have planned everything, like how I'm going to eat, where things are, putting things away. And then it's like, and it can't, as most people will go, well, I'm freaking out because of all how much this is costing. Most people I know when they write, I'm freaking out, not a lot, how much this is costing. I obviously have talked to myself through that and have everything allocated in a certain way. But I even asked myself, okay, is money in there somewhere? And it wasn't. But what it was with all the transitions of what's going on with COVID, everyone was like, Joan, COVID is just, this is where your body is finally, this is one change too much right now. And the fact that people are coming in, and how safe was I going to feel with them there? We were all wearing masks, barriers have been set up and everything, because I have been pretty isolated. I mean, I go out, but nobody has been in my place, and it has been clean and safe. And I had trained myself, right, on this, and all of a sudden I was letting people in. And this is what can show up at all these family events now.
Yeah, and I can only imagine, because that unconscious undercurrent, it's an undercurrent of anxiety that's happening with now allowing people to come into the home. As you know, that I recently moved, and I was there were some things that I was selling online, so people were coming to my home, and I remember the feeling that I had with letting strangers now come into my home to even to look at things and whatever, because where I was moving was going to a smaller place, and I couldn't take everything with me. I had to get rid of things. So there was that underlying undercurrent of, okay, now there's that's things that we never had to think about before. We just didn't have to think about it. So it was that, and then the stress that puts on your body, that because stress does lower the immune system, and stress keeps you up at night, and stress does a lot of things. So that's, and even when we don't know how to communicate how we feel about money, or that it's going to cost us more than what we were thinking, that's also going to create stress right there, and how to communicate that. So I think, taking it right back, always what you're doing with checking in, how you're feeling and what is the feeling, but then also being able to communicate the vision with the family and with your community, it on how do you want to do things now, because the way we used to do things, it's going to change, it's obviously changed. What's important now, and what's the vision now, what's the feeling now, what's the thing that's going to make your body feel the most joyous, the most relaxed, and the most happiest?
Right. And there is going to be a feeling of grief and loss, and yes, and stress. And we more stress than what we normally have in the fall. So we do have to be patient with ourselves. And this also may be where we need to pamper ourselves a little more. This
I like that.
additional, budget line at this point. But it is what needs to be there so that you can be healthy. So I'm going to ask that you take a breath this fall and think about what's important around each one of the activities you've done. And if you haven't done a vacation, create something to have a vacation with yourself, your family, and be at home with it. Turn it all off. We did this in the spring with school, work, and all that, right? Numbers I know are coming up in the fall. There's more deadlines, but let's take a breath and move forward with the fall looking like the spring, but even better because we are more familiar.
Yeah.
We have a little bit more space and understanding than we did in the spring. So now let's focus on what we can control in our houses, our environments, and that not the outside world and noise, but in our environments, because this is the time of family and gathering and being thankful for all that. So that's where you need to look at it and look at your budgets, and also don't forget about the planning. And we're going to talk about that coming up, and the importance of planning everything moving forward.
Yes, and that's we skipped the first break. Let's take a break now. And then also for the beloved community that's watching, we're going to show you a graphic where you can see Joan's information, where you can contact Joan for her community groups that she's offering, that we're also going to be talking about here in a little bit. But just to so that you have a visual, that you can see what it is that we're talking about, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. We are back. Thank you so much for joining us. Joan, before we went to break, we were talking about the conversation groups. Why don't we, let the audience know what those groups are, and that, how they can get in contact with you to join?
So the conversation group is a bit what I'm talking about today, is helping you figure out the best way that you communicate and those in your family, along with where is the vision and value with different things that happen in life. So we may have a vision and values and a vision of how we want to move forward and what's important. So then you go out and try it. And then life happens or things happen. So you have a group actually kind of holding your feet to the fire, but then you come back and say, hey, I'm stuck, or this isn't working, or this happened, and I don't know how to handle it. And it comes back to values and vision. And once again, it ties in your budget planning, your savings for in your different investment accounts, not how to, but are you saving? You should be saving, like, and also taxes, estate planning, whatever it's around. Is it talking to your kids about your legacies and what's important? Which now, as I said, we're putting the bug in your ear. So as your kids are going, put the bug in their ear and tell them not to tell you right away, but think about what is it about Thanksgiving and Christmas that they enjoy and find important. And we know most kids will say presents at first, but there is something else that is there that you can work on in this new world. And with the COVID precautions on the way your family wants to take them. And remember, right now, there is so much going on in our world, and we have to start with ourselves and our core family on making sure we're feeling authentic and grounded ourselves and able to do this. And working with the kids on the way they want to go to school, and how that fits in with your family. And then with the holidays is always a good time to talk about more stuff, but we need to start with what's going on. And I'm going to throw out, because I'm talking planning, and it's not just budget. Planning is everything: taxes, estate planning, saving for a new car, saving for your next transitions in life, insurance, all of that, right? And on my previous ones, I had talked about if you had 18-year-old kids going to college, you need to make sure your kids, now they are adults, at the age of 18, you do a durable power of attorney, financial durable power of attorney, a healthcare power. And I can't even tell you how critically important this is, especially with COVID. And then when you're doing all that, do it as a will. And what's so interesting is on Facebook, I saw a friend who sent their kids off, and when they got there, one of them tested positive for COVID.
Oh.
And they got put into quarantine, and no medical information could be given to the parents because they did not have a healthcare power of attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I was talking to someone else who made a comment on the thread, and they said, well, I checked the college, and the college will tell us, they kind of have a health power, and they will tell us what the student allows. And I said, oh no, you need a healthcare power if your child ends up outside of the school hospital system or at a doctor in case something happens. And so I will tell you, this one person whose son ended up COVID positive has put all over Facebook, make sure your kids have a healthcare power before they go. And it is critical. So I will tell you, when you're doing the healthcare power, you also do the financial power of attorney. How many students have their own checking account at school and maybe have jobs? Well, guess what? Just because you're mom and dad, you have no access to help at all if something should happen and you need to access that money. And then with the basic will, it's just part of the package. And as I was talking to the other person about the fact of go ahead and get a full healthcare power along with the other things, not just what the school says, was you're teaching your kids when they turn 18, they are adults and now they are responsible for this. So this is self-care for them and care for their family, because it's just like when they get a car, right? You buy car insurance. So this is just one of the things. And as life happens and life transitions happen, they know those are 3 documents that need to be updated. Okay. And I say this because so many people get divorced and they do not update, or if they have a financial healthcare power of attorney, a durable financial power of attorney, and a will, they don't update them when they get divorced. And while they're leaving the person they're the least happy with at that moment, right? If something happens to that person, guess who's in charge of your finances and your health? So if we start when kids are 18 and teaching them, this is what you do, and then there's a major life transition, you update it. I was talking to a family, and they said, and I believe their child had just gotten their first job and was in an accident or had an allergy reaction really badly. And because they did not have a healthcare power, they had a hard time getting medical information, and they did not have a durable financial power of attorney. So their daughter's apartment was closing, was going to kick her out, and they couldn't get to her checking account to pay the rent or find out information about the apartment. And so this is, as you can hear, this is estate planning, right? This is legacy planning, but this is also taking care of your finances so that other people can support you in doing this. And at 18, as parents, generally you start as the people in charge, that can take over and get the information. But as they get older, they get married, and it may be their spouse, or they may not get married, and parents may pass away. And then they already know they need to be paying attention on who will follow up. So I will tell you, with my business, I even have a transition person to take over. And at one point, it was my brother-in-law. Well, when he passed, I had to find someone else to do that, and think about that. But it's something we have to do. So this planning piece is more than just looking at your savings and investments. This is actually, these three pieces are taking care of you and your family. And if you don't have a will, even if you don't have a lot of money, you actually cost your loved ones more money by not having a will, because then there's court actions that have to happen.
Yeah, these are excellent points. I mean, and now, especially with all the changes and everything that we've had to, experience in 2020, it's really the right thing to do now to, okay, look at these three things that you were talking about now in estate, your will, and your looking at your finances, and
Yeah.
making sure that your kids' information is updated as well.
Yeah. I had a young couple where a gentleman had ended up in a motorcycle accident and was in I guess a coma, brain damage. And his wife, they did not have a durable financial power of attorney.
Wow.
And so the court stepped in, and she only got a portion of his paycheck and had to put together a cash flow for the whole year where she spent every penny they gave her. And this is law. So this is, once again, and they were young. This cuts into your budget, right? And taking care of the house. And how are you going to live? So people always think this is just about dying. This isn't about dying. This is part of a normal course we should do on taking care. This is taking care of us and taking care of the ones we love. And it is part of the budget, really, and part of your planning of doing everything, are doing those three basic documents. It's just like reviewing what your income is going to be. It's like looking at where vacation is going to be and adjusting it. This should just not be a scary thing, but a basic thing.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's a responsible thing. It's a responsible, taking responsibility for what's happening in your world all the way. So you don't have to, have this going on behind the scenes and not have energy leaks. I call them energy leaks. Like it's an energy leak where you know that this needs to be taken care of, but you haven't looked at it or you haven't dealt with it. It's something that needs to be dealt with. Let's take our last break, and when we come back, let's talk about what we can do now for the next next little while. What steps do we need to take to be more flexible, and how to best get prepared? We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Joan. Thanks so much for sharing everything, preparing us for the fall. How can people join your conversation groups?
You can go to www.river, RIVER, family advisors, ADVISORS.com. KORS.com, and it says change your conversation tab and join a conversation group, because this is changing times, and it is a support, and it's a way to have a conversation to help focus you on you and your family and what's important, and to be flexible. As we all learned last spring, the flexibility that we're having to learn and take on. And now we're going into this season of September schools activity, October Halloween, November Thanksgiving, and December Christmas. And oh my goodness, just think, I know UPS was busier than they ever are for Christmas. Imagine what Christmas is going to look like and how getting packages, there's going to have to definitely be planning for the holidays in order to get everything out to individuals on time, and thinking about that. And so with the conversations groups, though, it's really focusing, things are going to change and evolve. And it's, if you had the conversation with your family on your vision and what is important, and that's really the key. What is important about each one of these different things and times? And what does it mean that you can get back together when it's not working, have weekly family meetings, and touch it base and say, hey, how's everything going? Is it working? And this is what we're doing for Halloween. This is what we're going to do for Thanksgiving. Does this still sound good? Give some feedback, have some conversation. And there's going to be a lot of external noises going on about things. And so being grounded in what is important in your family and having everyone taken care of in your family. And what does that mean? And as I said, it's about understanding where all the different resources are. And also, you should have a place for kids, adults, and everything, for passwords, for websites and everything. This is part of this. And with all these, the durable financial power of attorney, the healthcare power of attorney, and wills, there are things that are put in place. So some people don't want to do a durable financial power of attorney because they don't want to have people have access while they can. You can put what's called a springing clause in there. So in case they are sick or incapacitated, you have to have a doctor's note to be able to do that. That's just safety. So that people, because I had someone who would not sign a durable financial power of attorney and actually had a heart attack and a stroke all at once. And family members needed to come in and take care of it. But that they had the healthcare power signed and the will, but they didn't have the financial power because of the fear of someone trying to take over. So there are ways to protect yourself so no one can get at it when you set it up. So this is about the flexibility and the vision of what we want to create and how we want to show up. So as you start getting tense during these times, maybe you're not making your numbers at work, and take a breath. Don't take it out at home because you're at home all the time.
Yeah.
Think about, what is it and what atmosphere are you trying to create? Let's be flexible. And you know what? We're teaching our kids, if you have kids or nieces and nephews or people around you, about listening now and being thoughtful and planning a little bit, because planning isn't, you can't just show up at a restaurant anymore. You can't just show up anywhere. You have to have an appointment in most places. So now, even if we're impulse people, and I will admit there are definitely certain things in my life I've been impulse about, you have to plan and make an appointment to be able to go and show up. So those who resist planning and planning isn't relaxing, actually to be able to relax, you have to plan. So we have a great opportunity to explore really what makes us feel good now. And we had been working on it, and we thought it was temporary. And so we were looking at it temporary. Now it's a little more longer temporary, I should say, than it's been. Kornelia, I have been talking a lot. How does this sound and resonate with you and what you see going on?
Well, I feel like you're right on the pulse all the time with what you're tuning in and what you're creating for the show and the content that you're creating and what you're preparing us for. I feel like, this is exactly what we need to do is to, look at our financial documents, look at the documents, the power of attorneys and of the health and also of your financial, and then with the kids going back to school. I think these are all excellent, seeds that you're planting, that we really need to look at these things and think about how we want to do our events that are coming up. What's the vision behind all of it, and communicate that. Keep bringing it back to the vision and the being more flexible now with everything, that's so new that we're also going to be experiencing, being flexible and preparing uh, to plan more. And I think, if we take that plan, and then we even as we're preparing the plan, is right away look at what's the vision in it. Like, what is the vision, behind it? Even what do you envision is going to happen, in your planning, and being able to communicate that more. I think the big piece from what I'm getting around all of this, and we just have a few minutes left, Joan, and that is to take the stress out of everything that we've already, all the stresses that we're surrounded by, but take the stress out, take a breath and prepare.
Yeah, and we never take the stress out fully. But the idea is if you have a vision for each thing, remember, and I'm going to say, as you're saying that, I wanted to remind everyone, a vision isn't a huge picture or something in the future. A vision can be what you plan this weekend. So work with and talking with your family about the vision for the holidays. And I'm going to throw out there all the charitable organizations that normally have big events that you go to. Now is the opportunity to think, why do I go and is that important? And because they still need that full contribution if it's still an important organization to you. And even if it's just virtual, but this may be a way to turn on how you're giving to them and involve your kids. Maybe now, because we have seen so much about COVID needs, and we're going to see more about people needing food,
Yeah.
shelter, and even shelter has to look different because group homes and things like that. So, what is it that's important to you and your family? So, I don't know. I always know a lot of people sit down in November. Okay, did I make my numbers? How much more money do I have left to give to charities? This fall may be the year to start thinking ahead and having the conversations too with the family on where you're going to give, and kind of put what is more of a percent or a higher percent if you want to wait until November to decide to give, because that's part of how you do your tax planning, and your giving, and however you do this. And it may be part of the conversation at Thanksgiving this year on what you're thankful for. So let's now take a breath and take a touchstone with each event on what was it about the event that was so important, and ask your family to do the same, and listen non-judgmentally to have a conversation around this and how can we create this moving forward. And look into a conversation group if you want support in helping through these different conversations and or the thinking of it differently. And that's at www.riverfamilyadvisors.com.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Joan. Thank you. See you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy.